Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Friday Focus, where we do not focus on what is seen but on what is unseen. And today, as we have been in the last few weeks, we're going to be looking at the Beatitudes again. And we're taking a look at Christ's sixth Beatitude. I call this one a clean break. The narrator in the commercial went on to talk about the bald-headed, muscle-bound genie who cleaned without equal. Then an enthusiastic feminine voice joined the commercial with her musical message about the wonderful cleaning powers of the said genie. Maybe you remember it. Mr. Clean gets rid of dirt and grease and grime in just a minute. Mr. Clean will clean your whole house and everything that's in it. Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Do you remember that one? In many ways, we are a society obsessed with cleanliness, television, radio, print, billboards, etc. And all of them encourage us to try some form of new super grease obliterating cleaner. New and improved, easy to use, cleans like magic, does wonders for the hair, the skin, the clothing, household appliances, furniture. Hey, it's dirt's #1 enemy. It wasn't always so. Did you know that? When the first modern bathtub appeared back in 1842, it was denounced as a luxurious and democratic vanity. At one time, the city of Boston made it unlawful to bathe except on a doctor's prescription. Can you imagine? In 1843, Philadelphia made bathing illegal between November the 1st and March 15th. Sadly, when it comes to spiritual cleansing, some Christians keep a similar schedule. We'd rather put up with unconfessed sin than come clean before God. Jesus waded hip deep into the whole problem of spiritual cleansing, or if you like, purity. In his opening remarks in the Sermon on the Mount, his godly powers of observation sized up the situation accurately. And when he spoke, he pinned pseudo-purity to the map. Listen to his words, Matthew chapter 5, verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Jesus, although he spoke of cleanliness, was not discussing soap and water habits, but was emphasizing the heart, the inner man. He focused on the motive, doing all the right things for all the right reasons. The Son of God longed for his followers to abandon hypocrisy, duplicity, fakery. His way left no room for scammers, shams, or pretenders. The one thing the child of God was called to be was to be real and authentic. Did you know there's a need for purity? Remember that first part of the Beatitude? Blessed are the pure in heart. Now, we've already established that the word blessed means to be happy or extremely fortunate or well off or supremely blessed. But who or what is Jesus referring to when he uses the phrase pure in heart? Are you pure in heart? Am I pure in heart? Perhaps we need to view things from Christ's perspective, from the cultural influences of his day, to have a little clearer picture. First, note that if an individual were to be truly objective, that person would reason that if those who were pure in heart were blessed or supremely fortunate, then those who were not pure in heart were not blessed or supremely fortunate. The word pure in the original Greek has several meanings. Among them is clean, clear, and pure. Some time ago, scientists studying snow made a startling discovery. Apart from the fact that every snowflake is uniquely different from every other, they learned something interesting, that each and every snowflake has a tiny speck of dust at its core. You might say that every snowflake that has ever fallen has a dirty heart. People, in a way, are just like that little snowflake. Each of us is uniquely different from one another. We may have similar likes and dislikes, goals and ambitions, or look similar to another. However, like the snowflake, there is a way in which we are all identical. We have a dirty heart. This is how Paul described it in Romans chapter 3, verse 23. He says, "For everyone has sinned. We all fall short of God's glorious standard." Did you catch the words everyone and all? How did that happen? Well, again, Romans tells us in chapter 5, verse 12. Paul wrote, "When Adam sinned, sin entered the world. Adam's sin brought death, so death spread to everyone, for everyone sinned." The prophet Jeremiah puts it into perspective when he says, "The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it?" Jeremiah 17:9. You see, we humans have more in common with that little piece of crystallized water that we call a snowflake than we thought. Getting back to what Jesus said, we might ask the question, what prompted Jesus to utter words that drew attention to the need for a pure heart? Well, let's look at the culture that Jesus faced. In Jesus' day, many of the everyday leaders and rulers were also the religious authorities who claimed to serve the people of Israel. However, there was no purity of heart. They were hypocritical, self-righteous, and self-serving to the core. They played their role under the guise of serving God, but their hearts were far from Him. The life of a Pharisee, well, number one, emphasized rules and little on godliness. Number two, emphasized externals and little on internals. Number three, emphasized public commands and little on personal obedience. And number four, emphasized appearance and little on reality. They looked to be righteous on the outside, but inwardly they just didn't cut it. And Jesus called it for what it was: hypocrisy in the extreme. If you are older, you might remember a soap. It was called Ivory Snow. Now they had a slogan that said their soap was 99 and 44/100% pure. Did you ever wonder what was in that other 56/100%? I did. I used to wonder why they would say that. 99, 44/100% pure. So what was in the other 56/100%? Now, while that may be good enough to call soap pure, in the kingdom of God there can be no impurities whatsoever. Note something else. Jesus says in the same sermon, in the Sermon on the Mount, in verse 48 of chapter 5, he says, "But you are to be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect." Wow. I don't know if I could say, that's me. I need to be perfect. Do you need to be perfect? God sets the bar at the highest possible level. Anything less is unacceptable. However, through Christ and the grace given us, we receive that kind of purity. Isn't that marvelous? Once received, we realize we are not pure because we change our life. We change our life because we are pure. And those who are pure in heart end up seeing God in ways we never thought possible. Wow. What an absolute exciting thought. Blessings on you. Have a great week. This is Dr. Vic Hollyfriend in His grace. If you have any comments or questions, you can address them to me at vixfridayfocus@gmail.com. The Lord bless you as you seek His will and way for your life.